emergency physician, frontline hero, artist, Kellye. Oh, woo woo. So tell people the reason you're on my show tonight.
Well, I am here to show all my multiple personalities and to get my name out there, my brand, and all the things.
Okay, so how many personalities must you have to be great? Let's say that. Let's start there.
I mean, you really only need one, but for me personally, I have the doctor, the dancer, the diva, the drum major, the author, the wife, the aunt, the sister, the friend, the sorority sister, all of that.
Okay, so let's start with how you became an MD.
So I wanted to be a doctor from the age of 2. What does a 2-year-old know about being a doctor? I don't know. Blame that on Jesus. But I basically started working towards going to medical school early on. Even in high school, I was in a health occupations education class and was certified as a nursing assistant by the time I graduated from high school, but always had the intention of being a doctor. So that was just kind of a way to get my foot in the door. And then I went to the one and only, the best university out there, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, Aggie Pride. Whoop, whoop. So I went there and was a biology major there. And during summer programs, I did the MED program at UNC Chapel Hill. So always, once again, working towards medicine. And then my senior year, applied to medical school, got in on my first round and went to the Brody School of Medicine in East Carolina and did my residency there as well. And boom, there you have it, emergency physician.
Okay, so emergency physician, was that a first choice?
Initially, I thought I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon, and then I realized that they have no life for like 10 years. and because I am multiple personalities, that was just not going to work for me. So I ended up wanting to do emergency medicine sometime around medical school. Shortly after 9/11, a lot of the people that a lot of the physicians that were being spoken to were either surgeons or emergency physicians. And once I realized how long residency was for surgeons, I said, well, I'm going to go the emergency physician route.
Right.
And so that's how you have it.
Okay, you were realistic in what you wanted and how fast you wanted it.
Yes, I did not want to start making money in my 40s.
No, that's doggone right, girl.
Not at all.
HBCU, like people, sometimes people frown on that, but look at all that you've accomplished coming through an HBCU. So
exactly.
Why was that important?
Well, my parents went to A&T, and I had 3 uncles that went to A&T, and my aunt went to FAMU, had cousins that went to Southern. So that's all that I was ever taught, really. I knew about Duke and Chapel Hill because they were 45 minutes to an hour away from NC State. All those schools were nearby, but because I started going to A&T football games at an early age and wanted to be in the band at an early age, I knew that's where I was going to go. Like, there was no other option for me. Actually, my guidance counselor in high school tried to convince my parents to convince me to apply to UNC Chapel Hill because that's the way you're supposed to go if you want to be a doctor.
Right.
And my dad said, I mean, she can go wherever she wants to, but my money is going to A&T.
That's right.
And I was right along with it. I was like, I don't want to go to Chapel Hill. And I think if I had gone to Chapel Hill, I probably wouldn't have succeeded because the school is so large. You don't have that one-on-one, connection that you get at the HBCUs. You basically are a small fish in a big pond. And HBCUs are smaller, although A&T is the largest in enrollment, number 1. But it's still a much more home-like environment. And so that was always what I was going to do. Didn't apply anywhere else because I knew I wasn't going.
Right. I love that.
Like, why waste the money?
Right. So, and then the other thing is HBCU Anthology. Tell me about that. Your writing, like you have so much going on to be a physician, girl.
I know, right? So I was in the first anthology for the first edition of the A&T version. So that was just about A&T and about how A&T made us as successful people. So I was in that with like about 43 other authors. And then there was the HBCU band anthology. And so that was not just A&T, but a lot of different band members from different schools. And I can't remember exactly how many authors were in that one, but that was my second anthology under the same sort of, the HBCU experience was who headlines all of this, but so that was the second one I was in, and then came my memoir.
Wow. So with the memoir, what was that about?
So that was my journey into medicine. It's part one, because I have already started memoir number 2, which is my journey out of medicine and into dance. But it's basically, like I said, from birth essentially up until residency, and it kind of talks about me growing up in rural Soul City, North Carolina, SOUL, that is a place, Google it, and how your perception can be altered by what people feed into you. Right. I didn't realize when I was young that Warren County, that's the county that Soul City is in, was an area of poverty. I never knew that because I didn't live in poverty, and a lot of my friends didn't live in poverty, and my friends' parents were doctors, dentists, what have you. I grew up in a sorority and fraternity household. My dad is Omega Psi Phi, my mom is Delta, which is why I became Delta.
Okay,
had to represent the colors today. And so I just kind of talk about my journey in medicine, how I got there, what obstacles I overcame that I didn't really know were obstacles, and talk about being the first female drum major at A&T, which is why I think I got into medical school, because that was the topic of my conversation for 2 out of 3 of my interviews at East Carolina. So all of the little things that I did over time led to where I am now.
Small steps leading to your major big thing. So
yes.
You were or are a contributor for several blogs. Can you talk about that?
I did an article in Women in White Coats that was just basically about like how I mentored a young lady into medicine. I did Lovely Spirit, that was my sister's blog, and I did a medical kind of feature for her blog, and it was called Ask the Doctor. So I did that. I basically just kind of wrote about any sort of topics I felt were pertinent to just the general public, and gave the opportunity for people to ask questions. Most of the time I just went ahead and picked the topic, but those were the main blogs that I was in.
So with that, like, what is the one question that you got frequently when you did the anonymous Q&A?
For who?
Well, male.
Oh, for the blog.
Yes.
Well, didn't many people actually send in questions, so that's why I typically would pick a topic, and then people would respond on it after I wrote it, but no one ever like put a question in first.
Okay, so then I have a question.
Sure.
Out of illness,
I'm ready.
Yes. So what's the most common illness that a woman has that goes unnoticed and untreated?
Fibroids, probably.
Fibroids? Why is it fibroids?
50% of Black women have that. 50% of women can have fibroids, and a lot of times if you're having painful menstrual cycles or heavy cramping, heavy bleeding, a lot of times it can be as a result of fibroids, but you don't really know that unless you get an ultrasound and find out. So a lot of times women will find out when they're going to their OBGYN because of fertility issues, and a lot of times it ends up being because of fibroids that people didn't know were there because they never got an ultrasound, because you don't really need an ultrasound unless you think you're having problems. And people typically think that menstrual cycles just hurt and you just have to deal with it. And sometimes they do, but then sometimes it's because you have fibroids and you get the fibroids removed, and then suddenly your cramps are not as heavy, your bleeding is not as bad. So that's probably one of the things that people don't really realize.
For women, what about men?
Men, I would probably say, because I'm not a family physician, so I don't really have to go over maintenance sort of things.
Right.
But probably the prostate is
right.
is my thought. That would be one of the main issues for men that they don't realize can be an issue. frequent urination or urinary tract infections, they can be as a result of, or decreased urination can be a result of the prostate. So, but yeah, with being an emergency physician, I don't really have to deal with either of those things. I mean, I diagnose them, but
Right.
it's a family doc or OBGYN urology sort of thing. So
Right. Not longevity, care, I guess.
right. Yeah.
So then, and I'm toggling backwards to the book or your writing. You have a new book out, so can you tell viewers about that?
So my book is called I Am the Beat, God Set the Pace. And like I said, it's basically my journey into medicine. And I got the title actually from one of my nurses. He was the one that said, "Ooh, you should name it something about beat, because you were drum major, the first female drum major at A&T, and then the heartbeat." And I was like, you know what, Trit, you were actually onto something. And the funny thing is, when the book cover was ready, I actually sent him a text of the PDF, and he was like, "That was a great title." I said, "You came up with the title, sir." He was like, "Did I?" I said, "Yeah, you kind of did." I said, "I added a word or two, but you gave me the whole premise." But yeah, I mean, the beat, like you said, comes from the drum major, beat, heartbeat, so kind of a play on words. And my cover is actually me in my drum major uniform back in the day, with a white coat, my stethoscope around my neck, whistle in my mouth, big hat, my mace, all of that. So my sorority sister, my Tau Beta Sigma, the band sorority, my sorority sister actually drew that for me, the Black Onion, Taiji.
Okay. So then with the book, who would it benefit the most to read that book?
So I guess it can benefit a lot of people, but the most it probably would be young Black male or female that want to go into medicine. But what I did was I incorporated scripture into the book, and so even though and actually I don't even really talk about medicine that much until the second half of the book. So the first half of the book is basically me talking about how I became successful at things. And so each chapter has a scripture at the beginning, and at the end of each chapter I have like a little reflection thought, and it gives you kind of like, makes you think about things and makes you prepare for like certain battles, and journal it. What would you do? I give the example of having a vision board, and I said, do you have a vision board? If you don't, you should, and this is why. So like I said, a lot of people can benefit from it regardless, because it's just an inspirational kind of book to help you see that you can come from just a regular place and become a super extraordinary person.
Right, I love it. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Now I'm here.
So where can viewers buy that book, support you? Do you have any book signings? Like, what you got going on?
I did do a book signing here at the studio. I got to incorporate all my brands. So I was like, you're going to come to this studio and see what a beautiful space this is, but you're also going to buy my book. But it's on barnesandnoble.com, Amazon, Target. You actually can get it from my website, which is drkellyWhall.com, Kellye. And so those are the major places. If you get it off my website, I'll actually sign a copy and send it to you. So, and then I also have some merch. So I got like journals, I got posters. The other books are on there, the anthologies. I do little book bundles. I have a whole thing.
So with your book, you're talking about how you journeyed into medical school, and that's very difficult. Like, I had a friend, like I do work at Atrium Healthcare. So
oh, do you?
Yes. So I started when it was Charlotte Memorial Hospital. You know how long
Yeah.
ago that was?
Yeah, before I got to Charlotte.
Yes. So she had to go overseas, like, because it was just so difficult to not become a resident. Well, all of that here.
Yeah, to get into medical school.
Right. So what for these aspiring doctors who's like worn out, and especially in the midst of the pandemic, because you're not.
Oh, that's a whole other can of worms.
Other can of worms. So people that's aspiring, working hard, or trying to find their niche, because you don't know what specialty you want to go in. I mean, like, you have your mindset on one thing, and then like you you chose something else. So how should they train their brains to stay focused and stay driven so they can get this accomplished?
Oh, that's that. I mean, that starts early on because for me, I was involved in so many activities that I knew I had a certain amount of time to devote to certain things. And so basically, it was all time management. I learned that early on. So you got to figure that out way before you get to medical school because
Right.
that's how you survive in college. And then once you get to medical school, I actually stopped all the activities because there was just so much studying to do. There was no time for anything else.
Right.
So no jobs, I mean, some people did, and I applaud them. Actually, my mentee, she had a job. She worked in the coffee shop on campus before she would actually go to classes for the day. And I was like, how in the world are you doing that? Like, there's no time. If you're not studying, you're sleeping or in class. But she's a beast either way. So yeah, you just have to prepare early on because those habits that you establish early are what kind of helps you along the way. And if you don't develop all of those habits early on, you're not even going to make it in medical school anyway, to be quite honest, because the MCAT is ridiculously hard. You know, they're very critical of your grades. And nowadays, they actually prefer that you have more activities because it shows that you can multitask. And as being a physician, you have to multitask, which, you know, typically when you multitask, you don't do everything great.
Right.
But, you know, because you can only focus on one thing and really do it well. But especially in emergency medicine, always getting interrupted. It's like, you know, you have so many patients in the department and the nurse is always like, Dr. Hall, I need this, or Dr. Hall, this patient is crashing, or so you almost never complete a thought. So my self-proclaimed ADHD actually helped me in the emergency department because me not being able to focus on one thing sometimes actually it trained me to be an emergency physician.
So emergency physician, is that like a generalized physician where you see everything, every illness, everything?
Yes, but not a generalized physician because a general practitioner or a family medicine doctor or internal medicine are kind of what you would consider more general practitioners because they take care of, you know, they take care of your primary care needs, like your health maintenance and that sort of thing. Whereas emergency medicine is more of a specialty because you are specializing in the art of saving lives.
Wow, that's intense. Like,
although you have to know a little bit about everything because you have to be able to diagnose everything.
it's so intense. So with what you're doing, how, and without being political, and I don't know how you can answer this question without it being political.
Oh, it's gonna be right. I was like, and I don't care.
With COVID-19 and the vaccinations, what is your input on that from a physician standpoint, from a wife and a mother, you know?
Get the vaccine because we are not going to get rid of this thing any other way. And I will tell you, I actually volunteered for the Moderna study because one thing, there was only like 10% of the participants in the study that were Black. And so you don't know how it's going to affect us if we aren't in it.
Right.
Also, I knew that people were hesitant of the study and the vaccine because of the Tuskegee experiment, what have you. So I already knew that was going to be an issue. And I knew the only way I could convince people to get it is if I got it early on and said, look, I've had it since October of 2020 and I'm fine. I don't have any third eyes, although a third green eye would be great. But no wings. I have all my fingers, didn't lose a toe, like, you know. But yeah, the reason the Delta variant is tearing the world apart is because the original virus has mutated. Why? Because there are so many people that are unvaccinated. Right. So although the vaccine doesn't completely prevent you from getting it, and it is even less effective for the Delta variant, but what it does is reduces the ability of it to be spread to other people, because the more it spreads, the more chance we'll have for other variants. And so it's more or less not necessarily only to help you, but it's a public health crisis that you're preventing if we hurry up and get this thing.
Right.
So if we had, I mean, it did become politicized, and because of that, that's why so many people don't want to get it, or some people just like, nobody can make me do anything. Well, eventually we're all going to be required to get it. So because it's just like smallpox. I mean, everyone had to get that. All those vaccines that you had to get back in the day, those are mandatory.
Right.
Coronavirus is, the COVID one is going to be mandatory as well. We're giving people the chance to make it an option and get it themselves, but eventually it's going to be required for school. For Atrium, it's going to be required in October. For Novant, in September. For healthcare, you need it because you're taking care of patients and you're at risk of getting sick. So you need to prevent more infection. So, I mean, we have to get the vaccine because otherwise it's going to keep replicating, and then we're not going to be able to catch up with it. And then it's going to be pandemonium and the apocalypse and The Walking Dead.
That's what my daughter's like, are we going to have zombies? Girl, we got zombies.
Yes.
Racism. It's called racism.
Right. That too. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just, and on the perspective of actually taking care of patients, because I'm working in urgent care now, I literally 90% of my patients are coming in because they are having sick symptoms, and so they are basically getting tested for coronavirus, and I have to do those visits outside, so I am constantly running in and out, putting on the PPE, taking it off, doing my charts. It is exhausting. It is unfair to healthcare workers because we're having to do this because people won't get vaccinated. And I mean, that's just on a personal perspective. I am exhausted as a physician, and it's like draining on the spirit. And, you try not to be judgmental, but I'm like, so you're not vaccinated? Great. You're the reason I'm doing this. Because you're the reason this is spreading.
Right.
Point blank, period. And don't write me any letters because I'm not going to read them.
So I was like, nah,
I don't care. I literally don't care. Get vaccinated. Otherwise, you are causing me problems as a physician.
Right. ASAP, get vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. So I would come in for hypochondriac reasons, okay? Allergies and stuff like that. But
I mean, you still can get COVID, but at least your symptoms are not going to be as severe. You typically would not require hospitalization. And so you did the right thing. Get your kids vaccinated, because now the Delta variant is hitting the 20 to 40-year-old. So there's a Lambda variant that's out there now. Don't really know a whole lot about that, but eventually it's going to be making kids sick. I mean, and kids are getting sick with the Delta variant, requiring hospitalization. So it's getting stronger and it's spreading faster because people won't get vaccinated.
So the Delta is getting stronger, or you just mean in general, just COVID? We started out with COVID-19 and now we're here.
Yeah, it's COVID-19, the Delta variant.
Right. On steroids.
On steroids. So yeah, COVID, the original COVID on steroids. So, and it just gets stronger and stronger.
Wow.
Keep on staying unvaccinated, people.
Don't.
Right.
Get vaccinated, people. Get vaccinated. So.
Please.
Yes. As someone who's experienced it inside her household, my nephew was admitted to the hospital with it, and that was in spring. So you don't want to know what that feels like or looks like from this side of the spectrum. So get vaccinated.
Yeah.
If at all possible, fight past the fear and do what you need to do to keep your family safe. So
and people that have medical conditions are always saying, well, but I have such and such, and so that's why I'm scared to get it. You're the one that should get it because it's affecting the people that have comorbid conditions more than the healthy people. So you're the number one person that should get it. Right. Don't let any doctor tell you that, oh, well, you have this autoimmune disorder, so you shouldn't get it. No, you should. Right. Because if you do get COVID-19, you're going to be way sicker than most people.
That's right. My dad has it, and he's got all kinds of issues, but he got the vaccine. He was first to get it, and I'm like, well, if he got it, I guess I better go get it, because he was a trooper.
He probably doesn't do medicine.
Right. So my next question, dancing, writing, doctor, adulting, how do you find the time?
Something suffer. I put more time towards certain things. Right now, there's most of the time is probably divided between the studio and being a doctor, with most of the time devoted to doctoring. So, of course, I'm not at home with my husband as much as I should be, but I'm basically trying to get the studio back to where it was pre-pandemic, before I became a co-owner. So while I do all these things, it certain things take a hit. So much so that I'm actually transitioning to part-time medicine towards the end of the year, because one, I'm getting exhausted. Two, I don't want to see what winter looks like with COVID-19. And three, I want to be able to just enjoy life a little more. I think one of the things that came out of 2020 is that life is too short, and you need to do what's best for you so that you're not stressed out. Basically follow your passion, have fun, and stop chasing a check, essentially. Because I've stayed full-time in medicine way longer than I probably would like to, but it's because I basically enjoyed the financial gain that came with being a doctor. So I like things, and I like to travel. I like shiny things. Right. So but at this point I'm like, yeah, it's way too stressful, and it's just, these days people don't really listen to doctors anymore. They're listening to politicians. And so I'm saying, well, if you don't even appreciate what I'm doing, then why am I even doing it? Because it's not fulfilling anymore. So guess what is? Dance.
Right. Okay. And that's a passion. Follow your passion.
All there right. You have it.
So how long have you been dancing, and how long have you had the studio?
I probably have been dancing. I probably danced out the womb, actually. I've always danced. When I was younger, I had a group of friends that I would dance with. We would go to like teen clubs and like battle people. And I had my best friend Stephanie Pender in Soul City. We had a little group called Two Hype Posse. Okay. And we would win talent shows. We won a talent show when I was in 6th grade. She was in 5th grade. And we won a countywide talent show when I was in 8th grade and she was in 7th grade. And then I was in the marching band in high school. And although my marching band in high school was more choral style, so we didn't really do a whole lot of dancing, but I knew that I was going to A&T and I wanted to be drum major when I was like younger. So I've been dancing all along, and then got to college, and of course the band, the sororities. So performing is my thing. I love a crowd. I love the applause. I am a whole ham when it comes to dancing and performing. Like, the louder you applaud, the harder I'm going in. And then, so emergency medicine drained me to where when I was off, I would go home and go to sleep. So, I could sleep 12 hours and still feel completely exhausted. That's just how exhausting it was as an emergency physician, bouncing from different emergency department. We staffed a lot of the different departments in Charlotte. So I wasn't in one particular hospital all the time. So traveling to different locations, working different times at each location, it just became really exhausting, which is why I left the emergency department in 2017 and then got into urgent care. My schedule stabilized. I wasn't bouncing all over the place, so then I had more energy, and I was then able to, well, I was going to say I found Dance District, but Dance District actually found me, because the founder and my business partner, Anna O'Boise, actually did a class for our teams with Delta Sigma Theta. We had a community day, and she came and did a class for them. And I enjoyed the class so much, I said, well, I'm gonna go to her studio and check it out. And went to the studio, absolutely loved it, loved the people, loved her. And we actually clicked very quickly and very easily. And it was the strangest thing, but I know it was a God thing, because he had been designing this and putting people in the right place. And I could tell that she was running like the whole show. You think I'm impressive? She is more impressive than me, in my opinion, because she had, the studio. Then she would choreograph for flash mobs. Then she had a dance agency, so she would hire dancers for gigs around the city. She developed her own printing company, so that the apparel that we wear, she printed it, basically save money because you're not having to outsource it to somebody else to do it.
Right.
And she would do choreography for weddings, like this whole thing. And then she had different business partners that she did pro workshops with. So I could tell that she needed some help. And she had actually decided to move out to LA for a while, but I had the idea, or God downloaded in my spirit. I was like, well, we're supposed to be business partners. So I said, well, if you're moving to LA, you ever decide to come back to North Carolina, you want to, have open up another studio and you need a business partner, I got you. So eventually at some point, I basically said, okay, well, even though you're going to LA, I think I want to open up the studio. And I don't know anything about it. Will you help me? And she was like, 100%, yeah, you're perfect for this. So I was thinking I was going to open it up like 2 or 3 years from, that conversation. And after a couple of conversations, she was like, yeah, so let's open up in January. And it's like October. Right. And so I'm thinking, like, you mean January a year and 3 months from now? She's like, no, January. Like, I'm like, sure, why not? And you're gonna be in LA? Yeah, that'll work. And I'm a full-time doctor. I mean, hey, why not? Let's try it out.
Right.
And then so we did a whole relaunch, opened up the place, and then that was January of 2020, and then COVID happened. So she actually never made it back to LA because she flew in for the holidays, and then she got booked for the Aretha Franklin biopic that was on National Geographic, and so that was in Atlanta. And then around March was when flights kept getting canceled, so she never made it back to LA. And that was a God thing, because I said, girl, I always saw it with you being here and us having a partnership, not me owning the studio by myself. So a little prophetic gift there. Yeah, he made it happen. So she has resigned that, you know what, I don't need to be out in LA to do what I need to do. And so there you have it. She's still here. Right. She's still here. And despite COVID, we are still open. Not where we used to be, just because people are still a little nervous, and we're in a different location now. But we're getting back there, and hopefully we don't have to shut down again because of the numbers. I'm like, oh Lord, we made it the first time around. Can we do this again?
Right. Yes, you will. But
yes, you can, because God put this together. This is God's studio.
That's right. God will shake up some stuff just to make you go to Him. You got to go to Him first before you make any moves. So that's how
2020 was a whole him. Like, Lord, what is happening?
Right. Well, Job, Book of Job, like nothing went well for Job. So that's just the story of Job. As long as you don't curse his name and you still have faith, he's going to give it all back. So, and with that being said, I had such a lovely time speaking with you. I want you to give people, like, who is the studio open to?
So we are mainly an adult studio, but we do allow 10 and up in certain classes. So we train from beginner to professional. So anyone and everyone that is at least 10 is welcome to come to our studio. The beginner classes are 10 and up. The more intermediate to advanced classes are for advanced teens that actually already dance with other groups and can catch on to the choreography, because we are industry hip hop. It's not your basic, you're gonna learn a whole 30-second routine in 1 hour and kill it. But you don't have to know how to dance to come to our studio. That's what the beginner class is for. And we build you up to where you can become like one of our professional dancers. And you may actually be dancing in the studio with a professional dancer, because a lot of my choreographers are either former NBA dancers, have danced with like Lady Gaga, Pitbull. They've been in movies. One of my choreographers was in Coming to America and Coming to America 2. Like I said, a lot of them are former NBA dancers, and some are some of the people that actually come to our studio because they want to be a current NBA dancer. So pretty much just about anyone can up and come in, and we will find you a spot. We will find you a class that you will love. We do hip hop, we do street jazz, jazz funk, contemporary. So those are kind of the genres that we have, and then we bring in choreographers from LA. We just had Cisco, who's a big Hills name. We've had Shamika Ann before. We had Phil Wright, who's on the Disney Channel. We have multiple people that come, ATL, New York, LA, all over. So Kara Harper, she just came here to did a Hills class. I mean, these people have hundreds and thousands of followers.
Yeah.
So
all right, girl, I'm gonna have to check you out. So
yes,
tell people where to follow you on Instagram, website information.
So my IG is long because people always misspell my name. But it's Kellye, don't forget the E, and that's KELLYE DONT 4 GET_THE_E. That's why I said long. Sorry. And most of my my Facebook is more of like family and friends, but I am on Facebook. The website, once again, is drkellyWhall.com. You can follow my studio at NC Dance District on Instagram. We have YouTube, we have Facebook. You can follow all that. We have a website that is ncdancedistrict.com. And yeah, that is where you can find all of me.
Wonderful. So I think we got it. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. AAT in the house.
Thank you. Hey.
Whoop, whoop.